QuickBooks Pro Desktop 2021. Class tracking by division. Setup company file. Let's get into it with Intuit's QuickBooks Pro Desktop 2021. Here we are on the desktop. Here is our QuickBooks program. We're going to open up the QuickBooks program, set up a new company file so that we can test the class tracking as it applies to divisions within it. Now, if you already have a company file that you're using all the time, you want to make sure that you can locate that company file. We'll show you how to do that as we set up the new company file here so that you make sure that if something happens, you at least know where the actual file is on the computer. Typically, when we go into the intro screen, we should be able to see the last company files that have been opened and open them from there or find the location from that point. But it's a good idea to have an idea of where the company file is so that if there is some kind of problem, you can locate the company file. So we're going to open up the QuickBooks program here. When we create a company file, QuickBooks will then put a data file somewhere on the computer. The data file is kind of similar to the Word document as compared to Word the program. The Word document is something that we're going to open up with the use of Word the program. QuickBooks is going to be the program that we're going to use. The data file is what's going to be created when we set up the new file. So I'm going to double click on the QuickBooks program. It's going to then open up to the last file that we had open. If it asks for a password, if you enter the password, it'll take you into the file. If you don't enter a password, then you could just X out of this point at this time. Let's just enter the password just to show you what would happen if we enter into the next company file or the prior company file that we had open. So that would look something like this. Now what I want to do is close this company file and make sure I know where it's located if this is my primary file so that I can then find it at a later time. To do that, one way to do that is you can go to the File drop-down, close the company, not the program, just close in the company file here. That'll take us into our intro screen without any company open, and then our recent companies that were open are here. Then you can hover over your latest item, which will be the first one, and you can see the mapping. I would then take a screenshot of that mapping where it says C drive and whatnot, where the file is located, and then go and locate that file. Make sure you know where it is on the computer. And you can always go back to this area and basically find it from here, your previously opened areas. But many people don't know where the file is on the computer, and that's kind of a problem because if you have to reinstall the software or something like that and it can't find the file, it won't be located here, then you won't know exactly where it is, and you're going to have to go locate it. So I highly recommend locating the file, knowing where it is if it's your primary company file. Now we're going to set up a new company file to test with, to practice with. You could do so either down here or you could do so with the drop down up top. Now when you create a new company file, QuickBooks will typically not even tell you where it's going to store it again. It'll just put it somewhere, typically to the last place that you had your last file that you've been working in all the time, or the last one that you set up. So then you want to go find it. We'll then go find it and put it where we want to put it so that we don't have QuickBooks files like all over the place as we test these things out. So I'm going to go to the File drop-down up top. I like to do it from the File drop-down because the File drop-down is always there. I don't need to be on this screen. I can actually be in another company and set up a new company from there. So I'll go to New Company, and then I'm going to pull this up. I'm going to call this. I'm going to set it for somebody else because I want to put in a different name than my company information. And I'm going to say this is test for class tracking divisions, something like that. And then the industry that we want to set up, I'm going to hit the drop down here and I'm going to go down and I'm looking for, now you could, choose the industry that's going to be related to you. What we want to do here is I'm going to set up an industry that might have like a multiple step type of income statement that we would want to set up. And an industry that might have different divisions that we could track could be one that's going to be like a manufacturing type of company. So I'll take a look at that, although, again, the same kind of concepts could apply to any company that has different divisions that they would want to track. So I'm going to go up to here to manufacturing, and then we'll see our layout to the right-hand side. So here's going to be the layout of the expenses on the right-hand side that's going to be generated for us. I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And then the type, we can set up the type, sole proprietorship, and so on. On the type, I'm going to just say sole proprietorship. Email is required. I'm going to enter that last. Notice we don't need anything down here with the EIN and whatnot in order just to open the file. And since we're not practicing with anything like forms that will be given to somebody else in the look of the form, I'm not going to add anything to these sections here. I'm just going to add the email, and then I'm going to continue on. So there it is. It says we're all set. So I'm going to close this. I don't need the intro screen. I'm not going to buy any payroll or anything like that. I'm going to close this out. I'm going to maximize the home screen. And there we have it. Typically, whenever I go into here, I'll go to the View tab and have the Open Windows open. Now, the next thing I wanted to say is, well, where did you put this thing? You know, because if I minimize this, I wanted it to go right there, but you didn't ask me, QuickBooks, into it. You didn't ask me where I wanted to put the file, you know, before you just put it somewhere. Like, it'd be nice if you asked me. But, so now we're going to go ahead and find it. So we're going to say, okay, let's go ahead and close this. This is the way I would do it. File, and I'm going to close this, and I'm going to say, let's go ahead and close the company file, and then I'll see it in the recently opened files as the last one that we had open. I'm going to hover over it, and then I'm going to search for that. I'm going to search for that. I'm going to find it. I'm going to copy that QBW file and then put it where I want to put it, because I wanted to put it there, and I wish QuickBooks Intuit would ask me before putting it on my computer. Note that if you move the file, like if you want to cut and paste the file to move it to another location, you can't do so while you're in this screen, because although you have the QuickBooks program open, you do not have the actual company file open. If you were to have the company open, then of course you couldn't actually cut and move the file. You'd have to close the company file and then move it. So we've done so now. I've moved this over. So if I go back down, so now I've placed it in this folder. Now note, you typically want to put the company file even when you move it into a folder, because although you can just cut and paste like this file, this is what the data file looks like. This is like the equivalent to a Word document as compared to Microsoft Word, the program, as is the QBW file is like similar to the document compared to the QuickBooks program. Now, even if you just copy and paste the QBW file, it kind of tags on these other things that come along with it. So that means that you probably want to put it inside of a folder so that when these other things tag along with it, then it doesn't, you know, it doesn't spread all over. You don't have it on your desktop where you have all these stuff. It gets kind of cluttered. So you want to have it in there. So this is a QBW file. This is the QBW file now. So this is the one we're going to use to be testing with. You can either open up the QuickBooks file by double-clicking on the QBW file, which would then open the program, and then open the data file within it, which is kind of like what you would do with a Word document compared to Word, or what you would do oftentimes, what people do with QuickBooks is double-click on the program, which would then open the prior document, or in this case, the prior data file, the prior QBW file that you had open, and then open the file from that way, just the opposite way of opening it, but same kind of relationship. Obviously, the QBW files are a lot larger in size than, you know, a Microsoft Word document. So in any case, that's the file we'll be using going forward.